Hi, and welcome to Nevaeh's Nightmare. And on this episode, we are going to be talking about the curse of the poltergeist. And just a brief warning, this story does involve violence towards women, so if you don't want to hear about it or you're gonna get triggered or anything, just feel free to skip. In June of 1982, a horror movie was released that shocked the audiences and was a huge hit that summer. The movie was called Poltergeist, and it told the story of a normal American family called the Freelings being tormented by the spirits of the restless dead. This film became one of the classics of the genre, but it was also remembered for what happened after the movie and the subsequent sequels that were released. Poltergeist would fall into a category that very few films fall into that would be known as a cursed film. In this video, we will explore some of the unfortunate deaths that fell before some of the cast members of the film and whether or not this 1980s horror movie classic could really be cursed. The idea that there could be a curse associated with Poltergeist came with the death of Dominique Dunne at the age of 22, only 5 months after the release of the film on November 4th, 1982. Dominique played the role of the older teenage sister, Dana Freeling, in the movie and was only 22 years old when she was murdered by her ex boyfriend. Dominique came from a well to do family in Hollywood, as her father, Dominic, was a writer who worked in television and also had produced some films in the 1970s. In 1979, Dominique started studying acting at a workshop in Los Angeles and even began to land small roles in television shows and movies. She caught the notice of both Steven Spielberg, Poltergeist's producer, and Tobe Hooper, who directed the film. She was cast in the film, and Poltergeist became the only feature film she would ever appear in. Dominique was considered one of the most talented young actresses in Hollywood, and her career was on the upswing with offers coming in left and right. In 1981, Dominique was at a party at her friend's house when she met a young chef who worked at an upscale restaurant in Hollywood. The chef's name was John Sweeney, and the two had fell in love and started a relationship. The couple soon decided to move in together, and things were really good at first between them. The relationship began to sour, however, when Sweeney became very jealous and possessive over Dominique. He began to resent her career and her interactions with some of her male actors that she knew, and he also felt looked down upon by her friends and family as he had grown up poor. Because of all of this, the couple began to fight regularly, and soon the fights became physical. In August of 1982, Dominique had to leave the apartment and stay with her mother and friends after Sweeney had gotten so violent that some of her hair was pulled out by its roots. In September, the fights had escalated to Sweeney trying to strangle her. Dominique had even filmed an episode of The Hill Street Blues where she played the abused teenager and didn't even require makeup because Sweeney had beaten her so badly. Dominique's mother begged her to leave Sweeney, and she finally did. She changed the locks to their home and then eventually moved back in. After the breakup, Sweeney became obsessive and began to call her over and over again, hoping that Dominique would accept an apology and take him back. Events came to a head on the evening of October 30th, 1982. Dunn was at home rehearsing with a fellow male actor for the miniseries V. Sweeney suddenly showed up at the house wanting to speak to Dominique, and she went outside with him, leaving her friend by himself in the house. The friend soon heard sounds of a struggle outside and called the police, but the police told him he could do nothing since it was outside of their jurisdiction. He went outside and saw Sweeney kneeling over Dominique on the ground and yelled for him to call the police. This time, the police arrived, and Sweeney yelled at them with his hands in the air and said, "I killed my girlfriend and I tried to kill myself." This time, the police took Sweeney into custody. Dominique was rushed to the Cedars-Sinai Medical Center and put on life support, but she was clinically brain dead as Sweeney had strangled her to death. On November 4th, 1982, she passed away when her mother and father decided to take her off life support. Sweeney claimed that he had not meant to kill Dominique and it was all just in the heat of passion. He even claimed that he had tried to give her CPR to revive her, and when that didn't work, he tried to commit suicide by taking pills. Sweeney's fate would be decided at trial. At the trial, Sweeney stuck to his story that he had not meant to kill Dominique, but had gotten carried away. The prosecution claimed that Sweeney had gone there that night to kill his ex girlfriend and that Sweeney had a history of violence towards women. The prosecution even brought up his other ex-girlfriends on the stand that Sweeney had been so violent towards that he had attempted to strangle her. For some odd reason, the judge ruled this testimony inadmissible and for the jury to ignore it. The jury only learned of this testimony after the verdict was given. In the end, Sweeney was convicted of manslaughter and received 6 years in prison, but only served 3 years and 6 months of his sentence. Dominique's family were enraged by the verdict, and her father, Dominique, even wrote an article in Vanity Fair magazine detailing the injustice done to his daughter. Dominique went on to change his career writing about celebrities' trials and was highly critical on the American judicial system. Next, we go to the equally tragic death of Heather O'Rourke at the age of 12 in 1988. Heather played the famous role of Carol Ann and starred in all 3 movies in the Poltergeist franchise. Carol Ann was the focus of the tormented spirits in the film and thus the main character in all 3 movies. Heather had been a child actor most of her life, starting at the age of 6, and when she was 7 years old, she starred in the first movie. In 1987, at the age of 12, Heather had caught a parasite from drinking well water at her home in Big Bear Lake, California. This led to her developing Crohn's disease, and she was prescribed cortisone shots while she was filming Poltergeist 3. This caused her face to swell up, and she was very self-conscious about this during filming. On January 31st, 1988, Heather began to feel flu-like symptoms. This soon developed into cardiac arrest, and she was rushed to a children's hospital of San Diego. It was found out that she had intestinal stenosis, which was the narrowing of blood vessels in the intestines. She began to recover after operation, but went into cardiac arrest again and passed away. The doctors discovered that Heather had a congenital condition, meaning that she was born with stenosis and had become exacerbated during the parasitic infection. The death of Heather O'Rourke was exceptionally shocking since she was so young and was considered to have a bright future as an actress in Hollywood. The next 2 actors in the Poltergeist franchise who passed away were Julian Beck and William Sampson. Both actors were actually in the sequel Poltergeist 2, which was released in 1986 and filmed in 1985. Julian Beck played the evil, ghostly preacher Cain, who was the unnamed beast in the first film, who wanted to use Carol Ann to go into the light. Will Sampson played a Native American shaman who helped the Freelings battle the evil Cain and his ghostly minions. Will Sampson was an accomplished actor and artist who was best known for his role as Chief in The One Who Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Sampson was already sick as well when he filmed Poltergeist 2, as he dealt with a chronic condition that affected his heart, his lungs, and his skin, and after a heart and lung transplant, he died of kidney failure on June 3, 1987, at the age of 53. Julian Beck was best known for his theater company, The Living Theater, which produced highly confrontational plays in New York City. Unlike the others we've talked about, Beck knew that he was going to die when he filmed Poltergeist 2. In 1983, he was diagnosed with stomach cancer and died on September 14, 1985. In the meantime, Beck did more mainstream Hollywood films to pay for his treatment and also something to leave behind for his family when he passed away. So, was there a poltergeist cursed? It's not really an easy question to answer. We've looked at 4 of the actors that have passed away after making these movies. Dominique Dunne and Heather O'Rourke's deaths were tragic because they were so young and both had so much of their lives ahead of them. But the other 2 actors were older, and one of them already knew they were going to die while they were filming. We focus on these 4 actors, but all of the other actors in the 3 films of the franchise went on to have successful careers and have lived long lives. I'll leave you with this. JoBeth Williams, who played the mother in the first 2 films, has often claimed that producer Steven Spielberg used real skeletons in the scene where she was trapped with them in the pool. She claimed that he justified this by saying that real corpses were cheaper than fake ones. No one has ever supported her claim, but stranger things have happened. Maybe the curse came from those restless spirits, just like the ones in the movies. Thank you so much for joining me on this episode, and let me know what you think. Was the movie cursed, or are these all just a series of unfortunate events? Thank you so much again. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell. Are you okay? I just look over and you're like, are you okay? You just started hysterically laughing as you press play.